Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome home, everybody. We are so happy to have you here. You know, if you find yourself just like imagining throughout the day what you would do in a zombie apocalypse, but then slowly realize that if you had to come face to face with these 28 later zombies, rage zombies, that you would just shrivel up and give up. If you would give up in an apocalypse like this, just like I would, if I saw one of those things running at me, I'd be like, that's it. I'm not gonna try to survive. I'm not gonna fight to find my children. I'm done. I ain't running that fast, okay? If that's also you, then yeah, welcome. You found the right place here, because we're gonna be talking about some days later movies. So today we're gonna be doing another movie review, so let's just hop right into it. Today we're gonna be reviewing and discussing the movie 28 Days Later, which came out in 2002. So for director, we got Danny Boyle, and for writer, we got Alex Garland. Starring in the movie, we got Cillian Murphy, Naomi Harris, and Brendan Gleeson. So the movie 28 Days Later picks up after a deadly rage-inducing virus devastates the UK. A group of survivors struggle to navigate the ruins of society and fend off both infected and human threats. So as we hop into today's review for the movie 28 Days Later, I'm doing these reviews for the new movie coming out 28 years later, which I am definitely looking forward to so much. I think that easily has to be my most anticipated movie for 2025 here. I love spoilers. I love both of these movies that we're going to be talking about here. So yeah, growing up, I feel like I saw a couple zombie movies. I remember growing up in that middle school, high school area. World War Z was always a big one. I was in middle school and high school when The Walking Dead was absolutely massive. So I feel like I always grew up in pulp culture when zombie movies, or this generation of zombie media, was at its peak pretty much, especially with those first couple seasons of The Walking Dead. So I was definitely familiar and had experienced some zombie media, I guess you could say. However, I remember when I watched this one for the first time, it always stuck with me in a different way compared to other zombie movies. It stuck with me that it felt more than just another zombie movie. It was one of those zombie things that I watched that actually stuck with me months and years after I watched it. So it had been a little bit since I revisited it, so I knew, anticipating this new one, I was gonna have to rewatch both of these again. So yeah, let's hop into the review section, starting with the positives, or just the things that I enjoyed most about the movie 28 Days Later. So first, I really do love how this movie starts off and how creepy and eerie and unsettling it really is. I normally don't like news clips or news media giving you that narration that a lot of post-apocalyptic movies tend to do here. And I remember the first time and rewatching this most recently, where it started off with those news clippings. I'm like, oh, I don't remember it starting off this way. That's kind of lame. It's just catching you up to speed here. However, this movie, I feel like, does it in a haunting way, where as it's showing you those news clippings, it kind of also zooms out and shows that it's a monkey or an ape, I guess, being forced to watch all of these news clippings as you zoom out, and you're in this cold scientific laboratory with this ape strapped down, watching these horrific news situations go on CRTVs. It's just it's such a creepy way to set up a movie, and then since you're in that lab with that monkey being studied and you're not really sure what's going on here, it almost introduces a little bit of a sci-fi edge to me. So I just appreciate so much how this zombie movie really just stands on its own right off the bat, because you think it's going to be just showing some clippings, telling you, catching you up to speed, but it's not really that. But then at the same time, it is kind of that. It zooms out to a perspective of an ape being forced to watch this and throws you right into the very very like beginning stages of this apocalypse that we're going to be kind of exploring here. So also in this beginning scene, I really enjoy how they keep that eerie and creepy tone. And again, when that doctor or scientist comes in, I love how chaotic and uncomfortable it really makes you feel. The beginning when the doctor like comes in after those group of, I guess, animal rights activists are coming to like bust this like poor ape from watching CRTVs all day. They're coming to save him, and then this doctor busts in and is like not running away from these activists, but like literally trying to beg them not to open the cage, and just tells them they're infected with rage. And then as soon as that first person opens up that cage, that ape starts running towards the woman and attacks her. And I love as soon as that happens, it also instantly changes to those close-up like handheld shots. I'll show some like clips of it, but very much with this franchise, like how it's like very close up in the zombies perspective, very chaotic, very handheld. As soon as we get our introduction to an animal in this instance that is infected with the rage virus, it instantly switches over to that style of filmmaking. And I think to me, it puts me right in that chaotic, uncertain, and scary moment that I love so much. Now, with both of these reviews here leading up to the new one, I'm going to be talking a lot about how much I love these types of zombies. And I don't even know if really people consider this. It is a zombie movie, right? But I don't know if people really necessarily call them zombies because they're more like infected humans. But for ZakIsCinema's case, we're just going to be calling them zombies here. So I love how different these zombies really feel. And it's so impressive how even in today's standard, with how overly saturated the zombie, I guess, market has been the past like decade, this movie and these infected zombies still stand on their own. Like, for example, like how quick they turn, but yet how quick they run and move when they're infected. It's almost like infected zombies with superpowers, which just adds a whole other element to the zombie genre. Me and my best buddy here, Brandad, check him out here, but we're in the middle of our Walking Dead saga watch, where we've watched all of the Walking Dead. We're unfortunately very, very deep in Fear of the Walking Dead. Oh my god, I hate watching that show, but we keep doing it. And it's just so impressive for me watching these movies here so recently that I guess I thought I maybe wouldn't enjoy it as much, just because I've been watching so much zombie shit recently that I was just like, oh yeah, I guess I gotta watch these again leading up to this new one here. But even despite how overly saturated I am with zombie stuff, these still stand out on their own with how different they really feel and really are. And I remember very vividly watching this for the first time because I had also started The Walking Dead shortly before this, and the great season 1 of The Walking Dead where Rick wakes up in the hospital, and then I watched this movie and then I realized like, oh shit, like Walking Dead really pulled a lot of influence, at least for those first couple episodes, with 28 Days Later. So I'm kind of bitter that I never saw this one first, because I love how it's shot, I love how it's filmed, and I love how quickly it cuts to Cillian Murphy's character Jim waking up in the hospital. And I love the concept of that. Again, Matt, I didn't see this one first, but it's just so like, I could not imagine waking up in a situation like that. And I think this movie and the next one we're going to be talking about do such a great job at putting characters in situations that force its audience to think about how they would react if they were in that situation. And this opening one is one of the prime examples for something like that, where as soon as we wake up with him in that hospital setting, to me at least, I'm like, holy shit, like I could not imagine how scary and unsettling that would be. It's such a smart way to open up a movie, because again, it just kind of puts you right there with the character in his worst day of his life, I'd imagine. Also, when I was like preparing for this video, I was doing some research and found out to film the London that opening London scene where it's all empty and throughout the movie. Since this was such a low budget, I think I read between like 8 and 9 million, which probably nowadays be like, I don't know, maybe like 12, 14 million. So still like very, very, very small budget for this. They actually filmed very early in the morning and requested people to stop walking through shots as their budget did not allow for them to shut down sections of the city. They also employed different techniques with multiple cameras filming at the same time, using handheld cameras to kind of capture all the shots as well. So it's just very interesting, very creative with these filmmakers taking advantage of their small budget, but still when you look at those scenes, you're like, holy shit, like it looks like they literally evacuated London in 2001 when they were filming this. It's such a well done opening scene that I really enjoy here. And right after that, I mean, you're locked right into the movie. It's got that great opening scene in the laboratory, then with Cillian Murphy's character. And then as he's walking through London, you see him go into that church. And I don't think this got to be one of the creepiest scenes I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever been creeped out as much as I have while watching the scene where Jim's character goes into the church and sees all those dead bodies everywhere, looking like this cultist mass suicide. You could tell something horrific happened here. And then, growing up in church and religious stuff like that, just the insinuation of this scene creeps me out on another level. And then when he is trying to find survivors because he's not really sure what's even going on, and then a couple stand up and look at the camera, then I think you get those piano keys that are so unsettling. And then he finds the priest as well. Then he busts out and starts running after him still when he's not even sure what these things are. I couldn't imagine seeing a priest or I guess anybody run after me like that. That is so creepy. And just seeing for the first time how these zombies move and walk around and run around is just, again, I'm going to use this word a lot, but it's unsettling. And on this most recent rewatch, I kind of noticed that this movie really gives me the feeling that found footage movies give. However, this movie does it in a way where it isn't found footage, but instead they use a lot of Dutch angle camera angles and a lot of grainy footage, shooting on early digital cameras here, and a lot of shaky cam as well. It's shot like a well-produced movie, but kind of gives you that feeling of found footage without it, the annoyance, I guess, of found footage. So I really enjoyed that on this most recent rewatch for me. With most important survival zombie movies, stuff like this, I really do enjoy the group of characters that we get for the most part. Jim, I feel like he is one of those normal survivors that's just kind of thrown into the zombie apocalypse that you really resonate with him, feel for him. I mean, waking up in a hospital like that, you instantly feel empathetic towards him. And when he finds his dead parents, when they're trying to find a house to sleep in for the night, again, another great, just small way to make you feel for one of our main characters here. I also really like the character introduction of Frank and his daughter in the movie when he saves Jim and Selena's character in the stairway in the bomber suit and then just instantly starts having drinks with them. I like that all these characters feel like real people, and we're seeing how different people responded to this situation, with Jim's character, Selena's character, Frank and his daughter. They're all just trying to survive, but they're all kind of responding a little bit differently. And I like when Frank invites them in and Selena is having that real moment with Jim later on and starts talking about that she likes him, but they feel desperate and they need Selena and Jim more than Selena and Jim need them. And then it comes into play later on when you hear that or when Frank says that he overheard that conversation, it adds more to that group dynamic, and I like how the dialogue and characters here feel so real. Again, kind of speaking of how it was filmed, giving that found footagey type feel without the annoyance of it. We talked briefly with the zombies and those close-up shots, specifically with the eyes, how you see on this DVD cover and all the posters you've ever seen for this movie. It just gives me that feeling and reminds me of old 70s horror movies like Salem's Lot or The Exorcist. Like, same similar feeling, done so well here. You know, obviously, it's been out since 2002, so like 23 years. So we're going to get into some spoilers here. But for me, one of the most just tragic moments in this movie is obviously going to be with Frank's death. I wish we had more time with him, but yeah, it's not a negative to this movie because it's done on purpose to make you really feel like, oh shit, like we were just really starting to get with this character and he's just ripped away from us like that. It's so sad because his last moments with his daughter is kind of like yelling at her, telling her to get away from him. Like, he obviously has to do that, but I imagine he didn't want his last remaining moments to be yelling at his daughter to get the hell away from him. And it makes it even more tragic when he was right listening to the radio and they were so close to that military camp base and they all come out afterwards, right after he turned and died. Like, I could just see someone in a situation like this tragically dying like that, and the scene here is so well done. I love that, and I love as soon as that happens, the movie kind of changes genres almost and goes in a new direction when it's in that military base as well here. Like, speaking of that, when they kind of change the tone, change the vibe of the movie when we get introduced halfway through in that military base, one great example of switching this up is that beautiful dinner scene where they're all talking about what they think this zombie apocalypse is. And then one of the military leaders talks about how humans have really only been on Earth and in this universe for a brief glimpse in time, and he's really kind of hinting at how this is almost like a return to normalcy for the world because we all haven't really been here all that long, so getting rid of us in the grand scheme of things is really nothing, which is just such a creepy and interesting thing to think about. But then you get another person how they're seeing this as just normal everyday life almost, as it's really just humans fighting other evil humans, which is essentially what our world around us has been doing ever since we've been around here. So he doesn't really even see it all that differently, which again is so interesting to kind of think about. I love how this movie here kind of has a shift in its story when you find this army camp, and it introduces these like concepts that go deeper than just a basic zombie movie. And then they introduce another twist into here when you find out that this military camp really isn't trying to save people. It's just trying to turn into some lawless breeding camp at the end of the day. And then you find out the military leader has been promising his men all these like women and stuff, and finally they find some woman with Selena, and I believe Hannah is the character's name here, with those two women. And it's like you get where their thinking is, like in a messed up way. You're like, I see what you're trying to do. You're just kind of going about it in a really fucked up way and so inhumane. So again, it adds another level, and you could see people actually trying to do something like this. You know, they're so desperate to repopulate the earth that a group of people would do something like this too. So that's another interesting thing where it just goes a little bit deeper than just your basic zombie movie here. And lastly here, I do really love how this movie went for more of its hopeful ending, with them finding that cabin and then making a sign, and you see I think it's helicopter or plane, seeing that help sign that they all made together. But if you haven't seen that deleted ending scene, you should definitely check it out. It has Jim's character dying in the hospital, I believe after he was shot trying to get Selena and Hannah out of that camp, and it shows like frantic scenes of Selena trying to save him, but then he dies and they both like walk off and it cuts to black. The first time I saw that on this most recent rewatch, I was like, oh shit, that's dark and depressing. It's so interesting leaving it off like that. And at the same time, I'm so glad that they didn't, because I think this movie's so just somber, dark, and depressing that you need that hopeful kind of ambiguous ending, not a dark ambiguous ending. So I like the deleted scene, but I like the choice of not including that and going with something different. But I do like both scenes. I could see people enjoying one or the other. I prefer the one that they went with, but it's cool that you have that other timeline option as well. But let's jump into my mixed section for the movie 28 Days Later. This is more mixed, like mixed positive, I guess I would say. Like nothing that really derails the movie for me, just more like minor nitpick things. So first is just some of these music choices don't all work for me. I like how unique it is, and it definitely gives this movie a certain vibe. Just like the beginning scene with Jim walking around Paris, I feel like should have been changed to something a little bit more creepy and eerie to really go for that isolated setting. And then there's like some random rock kind of sound music, especially within the first 30 minutes, that just kind of jolts me out of the movie whenever it does that. And then there's a really hard shift to some upbeat, whimsical music in the grocery store that just doesn't like fit for what they were going for, especially with the other music. So minor nitpicks, because I really don't like, if I wasn't filming this review here, I probably would have already forgotten about it by now, but minor things there with the music. I don't know if that's just me here. And with this next mixed one, I'm leaning a little bit more mixed negative on this. I'm not the biggest fan of Hannah, Frank's daughter, in the movie here. She's not bad. They just really don't give her much to do, and I think a way they could have made Frank's death even more impactful and devastating is if they really took time to develop Hannah as a character, or at least more so develop that relationship between Frank and his daughter Hannah. Like they really just don't do much. She's just kind of there for along for the ride, and I feel like just makes us feel more for Frank because he has a daughter. But then when we're left with the daughter, you're like, oh, well, like she's fine, I guess. I wish they took some more time with her. Lastly, here in my mix, I do really enjoy Jim's arc here as he becomes more confident, steps up in the movie at the end. It always bothers me, and I'll show some clips in here, but how he turns into this skinny badass, taking out all these army guys and like slithering and moving around so quickly, almost like he's Spider-Man at the end, just taking out all these army people at their mini breeding camp. It just always comes off as so goofy for me because it's like such a hard switch into when he's being taken out into the woods to be executed, and then all of a sudden turns into this badass and saves the day. So I wish there was a little more build up, or at least not such a hard shift where maybe he was like struggling to save them but then just saves them, not just like instantly turns out to this like killing machine, if that makes sense. Lastly here, let's jump into my negatives, or just the things I didn't really enjoy about this movie. Now, obviously, if you can't tell, I absolutely love this movie, and I feel like with my mix, and even looking at my negatives here, they're all just kind of nitpicky. I guess these negatives are nitpicks that just stay with me a little bit longer, but I'd still say that it was difficult to find really any significant negatives that I felt like pointing out. So take that in mind as I kind of talk about these next 2 points here. But for me, one of the negatives that really always stuck out with me with this movie is when, this might seem stupid, but with like Frank driving his car over those piles of cars down in the subway, I think it is, and how he's like gliding over them with that cheesy music filled on top. It's just like, it leads to a great intense scene in the subway there with all the shadows of the herds of zombies coming, which is so awesome. Just, I hate how they get there with them like kind of like whimsically driving over the piles of cars. That scene really just always took me out of the movie. Plus the music on that just added to my annoyance with some of the music choices in this movie. And lastly here, that one scene where they all take Valium, or those sleeping pills, found really strange in this rewatch, because I couldn't imagine a character like Selena really choosing to do something like that, just with how prepared she is and how much of a survivor she is. Like, I know she needs her sleep, but like, I doubt all these survivors here would be taking sleeping pills when they're not in like any sort of, stable living environment. So I don't know, that one kind of took me out of it too, because I'm like, I don't think these characters would really do that, and then like pressure a kid to do that when they're trying to survive here. Like, I don't think we all need to be high in a zombie apocalypse. So that one just felt kind of weird to me, and it leads to kind of like a one-off strange dream sequence, if I'm remembering correctly. So it just kind of, I don't know. I think there was a better thing to do there. Again, like, these two negatives really don't impact anything. They're just things that stuck out with me. So I don't know, maybe those are more mixed negatives than my mixed positives. So if that makes sense, I would say overall, this is one of those great zombie apocalypse movies where they make the human story and characters just as, if not more interesting than all the zombie stuff going on. It balances so well, and it's a zombie movie that actually has a deeper meaning and message behind it, which is awesome when you're going back and watching this zombie movie after being overly saturated with zombie stuff the past 10-15 years. It's awesome how well this one really still stands out. So for my rating for this movie, yes, I do own the DVD. I have not upgraded. I can't even play it, but these need to be part of my collection. So for my rating for this movie is I have it as, I will upgrade this movie. I'm sure we're going to get a cool box set once we finish out this newer trilogy of movies. So I will upgrade this one. This is one I'll always keep in my collection because I'm always going to want to rewatch it. So you guys have my thoughts here on the movie 28 Days Later. Let me know down below what you think of this movie. Have you watched it recently? What's your anticipation or thoughts and feelings with the new 28 Years Later movie coming out very soon here? Let me know all that information down below here. But yeah, I appreciate anybody watching my videos, so thank you so much. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.